I realize that the phrase Happy New Year always resonates with a certain irony your first days back in school, but welcome back anyway. If you're wondering what great piece of Renaissance art I chose to kick off this unit, this is Michelangelo's grocery list, honest. It was displayed in an exhibit of Michelangelo's papers at the Seattle Art Museum. I'm quoting here from the museum website. Because the servant he was sending to the market was illiterate, Michelangelo illustrated the shopping list: a herring, tortelli, 2 fennel soups, 4 anchovies, and a small quarter of rough wine. The true Renaissance man interested in everything, including a good meal. I just note that if my family had to rely on a Mary McConnell illustrated grocery list to figure out what to buy, we would all starve. Back before the new curriculum was released, we used to cover the material in this unit in 2.5 units. Ouch! The College Board has now drastically reduced the list of Renaissance works you're expected to know, but has also dropped hints that, yes, of course, you should know other major works from the period as well. Sigh, we'll do our best. While this unit will take us back to the 14th century and north to Flanders, the Netherlands, and Germany, for today we are going to stay put in one city and one time, Florence, Italy, during the first half of the 15th century. So consider today's fare a tasting menu. Tonight and tomorrow you'll settle down to the main course and the serious work begins. Most modern histories of Europe begin here, in this city at the dawn of the 15th century. The question I want you to begin thinking about today is, why? What was it about Florence that spawned and attracted so many great artists? What was it about this moment in history that produced both a classical revival and a burst of innovation? I hope and I really trust that you will not succumb to the simplistic judgment of Renaissance Italians themselves. They thought they had reclaimed civilization from the barbarians, or as they dubbed them, the Goths. This is not the art of a primitive culture. But even though we're all much too awed by cathedrals and stained glass windows to label the entire Middle Ages as barbaric, we still need to understand that something did happen in Florence, and further that this something did represent a huge shift in human history and with it the history of art. I've never seen a history of the Italian Renaissance that did not emphasize the path-breaking expressionism and linear perspective of Masaccio, the famous competition for the honor and future fame of designing the doors of Florence Cathedral's baptistry, or the classical rediscovery and scientific innovation of Brunelleschi's magnificent dome, shown here. They are all, however, missing from the list. So today we're going to thumb our noses at the College Board list and watch 3 video clips that will introduce these works. But as you watch these videos, I want you to stay focused on my initial question. Why did art history shift decisively in Florence, Italy at the dawn of the 15th century? Let's begin with my favorite art historian, Sister Wendy Beckett, as she takes us to Florence again. And note that Sister Wendy, now alas deceased, put a lot of emphasis on 2 artists that the College Board left out, Masaccio and Fra Angelico. As you've probably gathered, I'm on Sister Wendy's side here. So, did you stop to talk about the questions I put on the previous slide? Let me ask a couple more. First, what misperception about the meaning of Renaissance humanism do you think Sister Wendy is trying to counter? The Renaissance was not an age of rebellion against religion. It was a deeply religious age, and much of the art we will view as clearly religious in subject matter and in motivation. Nevertheless, as Sister Wendy also asserts, the Renaissance did elevate the importance of the human creation, human dignity, human potential, and the value of the talented individual artist. One important development that she doesn't mention, at least in this clip, is that in the Renaissance, artists began signing their work. This video clip ended with a mention of the great patron family, the Medici, but Sister Wendy doesn't tackle the second very important question that I put on this slide. Why did Florence's merchant culture give rise to such a vast expansion in patronage? And why did these patrons seek out and foster individual genius such as Masaccio, Fra Angelico, and Michelangelo? Let's turn to a second video to begin exploring this question. The clip actually starts with brief glimpses of a fresco by Giotto. In our next class, we'll move back in time and explore Giotto's work in more detail. But mostly this video segment from the Art of the Western World series tells the story of one of the most famous events in art history, the contest to design the bronze doors of the Florence Cathedral baptistry. I've posed some questions that I want you to think about as you watch this clip. Economic historians sometimes describe this period, and especially the later Renaissance, as the commercial revolution. Money reappeared on a large scale, replacing an economy based mostly on barter or direct exchange of goods. Merchants like the Medici founded banks, and these banks in turn financed further economic expansion. Trade grew dramatically, first within the Mediterranean and North Sea trading areas, and then, with new developments in navigation, extended to the Far East and the New World. So what does it say about a society that it would hold a competition to award two extremely important and valuable commissions, the baptistry doors, which you've just heard about, and the dome over Florence Cathedral, which you'll see in a minute? Maybe it's my training in economics, but I think that along with the rediscovery of ancient texts, the rise of a merchant class that lived and breathed competition was an extraordinarily important impetus for humanism and for art. There was some social mobility during the Middle Ages, but for the most part, people were expected and expected themselves to stay in the social class to which they were born. The ruling elite was a noble class that guarded entry into its ranks, and almost everyone, peasants, priests, nobles, viewed the upstart town dwellers with suspicion. Except in the Italian city-states, or more accurately, some of the Italian city-states, where the merchant class seized political power and began reshaping culture in its own image. It's dismaying that the ECB skipped the baptistry doors competition. It is mind-boggling that the ECB skipped this work, although we do have a required work by Brunelleschi. So let's watch still another video clip. Note that it talks not only about how and why Brunelleschi won the competition to build the dome, but also about the importance of mathematics to Renaissance art. Stay tuned. Note that Brunelleschi used pointed ogival arches, a shout-out to Gothic architects who, of course, borrowed this form from Islamic architecture. The Pantheon had a lower hemispherical dome, but the Roman architects used concrete and made the walls extraordinarily thick to support the dome. Brunelleschi needed to go higher, and the design of the rest of the cathedral demanded lighter, airier walls. Here are a few drawings that capture Brunelleschi's architectural and mathematical innovation. The equipment he designed to build the cathedral was as innovative as the dome itself. It's worth remembering that the line between mathematics, engineering, and art didn't really exist in the Renaissance. Both Michelangelo and Leonardo, for example, made a lot of their money designing military armaments. We're out of time, and you're probably suffering from video overload, but let me make one last plug for our extra credit videos on the Medici. Some of you, I hope, watched the PBS Empire's Medici episodes, at least the first two, over Christmas break. I'm going to extend this extra credit offer a couple more days. Watch either the first and second episodes of this excellent PBS series and think about the questions I'm posing here. Then enter 4 things you learned in the discussion board up on campus.